Right now, somewhere in the world, two people are facing the exact same problem, same pressure, same stress, same obstacle, but one of them is about to break down, and while the other is about to change their life forever. Not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, but because of one small difference in how they think. And once you understand this difference, you will never look at problems the same way again. Every human being faces problems, money problems, relationship problems, health problems, career problems. Life is not designed to be problem free. But here's the real question. Why do some people collapse under pressure, and while others seem to grow stronger every time life hits them? The answer isn't intelligence, it's not luck, and it's definitely not talent. It's mental focus, because most people train the brain to do something dangerous. Whenever a problem appears, the mind instantly asks, why is this happening to me? What if things get worse? What if I fail? What will people think? And before they know it, they're trapped in a loop of overthinking. Their brain keeps replaying the same thoughts, the same worries, the same fears, and while they're stuck thinking, the problem is still sitting there, unsolved, unchanged, growing bigger in their mind. Right now, somewhere in the world, two people are facing the exact same problem, same pressure, same stress, same obstacle, but one of them is about to break down, and while the other is about to change their life forever. Not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, but because of one small difference in how they think. And once you understand this difference, you will never look at problems the same way again. Let me ask you something. When something goes wrong in your life, what is the first thought that appears in your mind? Is it something like, why does this always happen to me? Why is my life so difficult? Why can't things just go right for once? If those thoughts sound familiar, you're not alone. Because most people have unknowingly trained their minds to do something incredibly destructive. They focus on the problem, and the longer they focus on it, the bigger it becomes. A few years ago, I lost my job. No warning, no backup plan, just one meeting, and suddenly my income was gone. And in that moment, my mind had two choices. I could panic, I could complain, I could have spent weeks blaming the economy, blaming my boss, blaming the situation, and many people do exactly that. But instead, I asked myself a different question, a question that completely changed the direction of my life. I asked, what can I do next? Not next year, not next month, just what can I do next? And that question forced my brain to do something powerful. Instead of replaying the problem, my mind started searching for solutions. I started contacting people, learning new skills, exploring opportunities, and within a year, I wasn't just employed again, I had built something even better, all because of one mental shift. Your brain is incredibly powerful, but it has one weakness. Whatever you focus on your brain expands. Focus on fear, fear grows. Focus on anger, anger grows. Focus on the problem grows. Not in reality, but in your perception. A small issue suddenly feels like a massive crisis. A simple mistake feels like the end of the world. And the more you think about the problem, the more emotional you become. And when emotions rise, logic disappears. Clear thinking shuts down. Your brain enters survival mode, and survival mode does not solve problems, only reacts to them. This is why people panic, why people freeze, why people make terrible decisions under pressure. Not because they're weak, but because their mind has been trained to magnify problems instead of solving them. Highly successful people have problems too, and sometimes bigger ones than anyone else. But the brain asks a different question. So instead of asking, why is this happening? They ask, what can I do about it? That simple shift changes everything, because the moment your brain asks that question, it starts searching for answers, for solutions, for options, for opportunities. Your mind switches from victim mode to creator mode. So instead of feeling powerless, you start feeling capable, and instead of feeling overwhelmed, you begin to see possibilities. Problems, they no longer look like wolves, they look like puzzles, and puzzles, they can always be solved. But here's the strange thing. Your brain actually prefers problems over solutions, and if you don't understand why, your mind will keep pulling you back into negative thinking patterns. Let's talk about why that happens. Here's something most people don't realize. Your brain is naturally wired to notice danger. Thousands of years ago, this kept humans alive. If our ancestors ignored problems, they didn't survive. So your brain evolved to constantly scan for threats, scan for negative events, risks, worst case scenarios, and this is called negativity bias. Your brain automatically focuses on what could go wrong. But the modern world is different. Most of our problems are not life-threatening, they're psychological. Financial stress, work stress, relationship stress, social pressure. Yet, your brain reacts the same way as if a tiger is chasing you. Heart racing, mind spinning, emotions exploding. This is why learning to train your mind is one of the most important skills in life. Because if you don't control your thinking will control you. Whenever a problem appears, most people react instantly. They panic, they complain, they overthink. But powerful thinkers do something different. They pause. Just for 3 seconds. 3 seconds might sound small to you, but it interrupts your emotional reaction. It gives your brain time to switch from emotion to logic. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself one powerful question. What is the next step? Not the perfect solution, not the entire plan, just the next step. Because progress begins with action, not overthinking. Imagine 2 people losing their job. Person number 1 thinks, my life is over. What will people think? I'll never recover. I can't handle this. And person number 2 thinks, okay, this is difficult, but what are my options? Who can I contact? What skills do I have? What opportunities could this create? The situation is identical, but the thinking is completely different. One person sinks into stress, and the other begins searching for opportunity. And over time, that difference compounds. One mindset builds strength, and the other builds fear. Every problem carries information. It shows you where something needs to improve, where something needs to change, where growth is required. Failure reveals weaknesses, rejection reveals direction, and obstacles reveal strategy. But you only see these lessons when your mind stops obsessing over the problem itself. So instead of asking, why did this happen? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? And this single question has transformed the lives of millions of people, because suddenly, every setback becomes data, not defeat. The modern world is noisy. Constant notifications, endless opinions, social media drama, news cycles filled with negativity, and all of it trains your brain to react emotionally, to panic, to argue, to overthink. But the people who win in life develop a rare ability. They think clearly under pressure. While others panic, they analyze. While others complain, they plan. While others focus on the problem, they move towards the solution. And this ability compounds over years. Eventually, it creates confidence, success, and emotional strength. Your brain works like a muscle. Wherever you train becomes stronger. If you train worry, you become better at worrying. If you train fear, you become better at fearing. But if you train solution thinking, your mind begins searching for answers automatically. Whenever something goes wrong, instead of spiraling into stress, your brain begins asking, what can I do about this? And that habit alone can transform your life. But here's the truth most people never hear. Even if you understand all of this, your brain will still try to pull you back into old thinking patterns, into your old fears, old reactions, old habits, which is why the most powerful mental exercise for training your brain is to focus on solution. This is something almost nobody practices, and when you start using it, your mind becomes shockingly calm under pressure, and I will explain exactly how it works. If you want to train your mind to focus on solutions instead of problems, there's one powerful exercise that high performers use every single day, and it's called the solution switch, and it's incredibly simple. So whenever you notice yourself thinking about a problem for more than a few seconds, you interrupt the thought. Then you ask yourself 3 questions, not 1, 3. So the first question is, What exactly is the problem? Most people never clearly define their problems. They just feel overwhelmed. Their mind says things like, my life is a mess, everything's going wrong. But vague problems create vague thinking, and vague thinking never produces solution. So the first step is clarity. Be specific. Instead of saying, my career is failing, ask, what exactly is wrong in my career right now? Is it your income, your work environment, your skills, your direction? The clearer the problem becomes, the easier it becomes to solve. The second question is, what is one possible solution? Not the best solution, not the perfect solution, just one possible option. Your brain might say, I could learn a new skill. I could contact someone in the industry. I could improve my routine. I could change my environment. The moment your brain starts producing options, your mental state changes. You go from feeling trapped to feeling capable. The third question is the most powerful one. Ask yourself, what action can I take today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because ideas without action are just thoughts. But small actions build momentum, and momentum builds confidence, and confidence builds results. This is how solution thinkers slowly reshape their lives, one step at a time. Overthinking feels productive. Your mind is busy, your thoughts are racing, it feels like you're analyzing everything. But in reality, overthinking is often just fear wearing a disguise. So instead of solving the problem, your brain keeps replaying the same scenario again and again and again. You imagine worst case outcomes, you imagine failure, you imagine embarrassment, you imagine everything going wrong. And every time your brain runs these simulations, your body reacts as if it's actually real, because your heart rate increases, your stress hormone rise, your focus collapses, which means the longer you overthink, the harder it becomes to think clearly. Solution thinkers understand this trap. They don't allow their mind to spin endlessly. Instead, they move quickly into action mode. Even small actions break the cycle of overthinking, because action gives your brain new information, and new information replaces fear with clarity. Complaining feels good in the moment. When something goes wrong, talking about it releases emotional pressure. But complaining has a hidden cost. Every time you complain, you reinforce the idea that the problem is bigger than you, that you are powerless, that the solution controls you. And the more your brain believes that story, the weaker your mindset becomes. Now, this doesn't mean you should ignore problems or pretend that everything is fine. Solution thinkers acknowledge problems, but they refuse to live inside them. They talk about solutions more than they talk about difficulties. They discuss strategies instead of excuses. And over time, that habit rewires the way the brain sees the world. One of the most powerful mental rules you can adopt is this. Spend 10% of your time understanding the problem and 90% of your time building the solution. Most people reverse this ratio. They spend hours discussing what went wrong, why it happened, who caused it, how unfair it is, and almost no time building the path forward. But the past cannot be changed, only the future can. So the moment you understand what went wrong, shift your focus forward and ask yourself, what can I build from here? That mindset transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Elite performers face intense pressure. Athletes, business owners, surgeons, pilots, leaders. In high-stakes environments, panic destroys performance. So these individuals train their mind to remain calm under pressure. One technique they use is called mental reframing. So instead of interpreting stress as danger, they interpret it as preparation. So for example, when the heart rate rises, they don't think I'm nervous. They think my body is preparing me to perform. This shift changes how the brain processes stress. Instead of weakening focus, stress becomes energy, and that energy can be directed towards solving problems. When your mind is calm, your thinking becomes precise, it becomes creative, strategic. But when your mind is chaotic, your thinking becomes reactive, impulsive, short-sighted. This is why learning to control your thoughts is one of the most valuable skills in the modern world, because most people are constantly reacting to everything around them. News headlines, social media arguments, daily frustration, and this constant reaction trains the brain to live in an emotional turbulence. But solution thinkers protect their mental clarity. They step back, they observe, they think before they react, and this ability alone separates them from the majority. Your brain is like a search engine. Whatever question you ask, your brain begins searching for answers. So if you ask, why does A thing go wrong for me? Your brain will produce evidence that supports that belief. But if you ask, how can I improve the situation? Your brain begins scanning for solutions. This is why powerful thinkers are careful about the questions they ask themselves. Instead of destructive questions like, why am I so unlucky? They ask constructive questions like, what can I learn from this? Who can help me solve this? And what opportunities might exist here? The quality of your questions determines the quality of your thinking, and the quality of your thinking, it determines the direction of your life. One of the biggest advantages of solution-focused thinking is momentum. When you take action, even small action, you create movement, and movement produces feedback, and feedback produces learning, and learning produces improvement, and improvement builds momentum. But when you stay stuck analyzing problems, nothing moves, and when nothing moves, frustration grows. This is why successful people focus on progress instead of perfection. They would rather take 10 imperfect steps forward than spend years waiting for the perfect plan. Eventually, something powerful begins to happen. When you consistently focus on solutions, your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles with problems. You start seeing yourself as someone who solves them. And identity is powerful because once your brain accepts a new identity, your behavior begins to align with it. A person who believes they are resilient behaves differently than someone who believes they are fragile. A person who sees themselves as capable approaches challenges differently than someone who feels powerless. So over time, solution thinking becomes automatic, not forced, not difficult, just natural. The world is changing faster than ever. Technology, artificial intelligence, economic shifts, new industries emerging every year. In this kind of environment, problems are unavoidable, but opportunities are everywhere. The people who succeed in the future will not be those who avoid problems, they will be those who solve them faster than anyone else. Clear thinkers, adaptable thinkers, solution thinkers, people who can look at chaos and calmly build the next step forward. And that skill can be trained. At some point in life, everyone faces moments where things fall apart. Plans don't work out, opportunities disappear, unexpected challenges appear. And in those moments, your mindset becomes your most valuable asset because while you cannot always control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. You can focus on the problem or you can focus on the solution. One path leads to frustration and the other leads to growth. And the choice happens inside your mind every single day. So the next time life throws a problem in front of you, pause for a moment, take a breath, then ask yourself one powerful question. Not why is this happening to me, but what is the next step forward? Because the moment you start searching for solutions, you stop being trapped by the problem. And the more you train your mind to think this way, the more unstoppable you become.